Hello everyone, welcome back to Ursa Minor Sewing, and today I'm going to talk to you about how I did the underskirt portion and the overskirt for Princess Peach. To do this, you're going to need to make a test garment first of this dress. Specifically, you need this skirt here, which has the band on the bottom, and then you'll need the overskirt here. And try to do it in whatever size best fits your waist. I found that even the small for ladies in this was too big to go over the hoop skirt and the crinoline, so I don't think it really matters. It was pretty wide in the waist. But for this, you will need pieces 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And you're going to be cutting for skirt style B and overskirt CD. What I did for mine was I took the pieces out because, as you can see in these little diagrams here, it's just one piece, see? So what I did was I took some tracing vellum and I actually traced out each of these pieces separately so that I wouldn't have to use the same piece over and over again. So that's what this is. Piece 8 here. Can't really get a good look at it, but it's piece 8 for skirt B. It doesn't have the overskirt on it. I also have separate pieces for the overskirt. So what you do is you try this skirt, just the skirt on with the hemband and everything, on over top of your hoop skirt and your crinoline. Okay? And make sure that when you try it on, you're also wearing your shoes, and get a buddy to help you to make sure that when you slip it on over your head, the hem is touching or barely touching the ground. You want it to be about an inch off the ground. That way when you step forward, you're not going to step on the dress. Okay? Then what you need to do is figure out how much you need to take it in by. So what I did was, after determining that the skirt was way too big, I measured around the seam between the hem band and the main skirt. So I measured this seam here and found out that there was like an extra meter and a bit of fabric that I didn't need. So and the way I determined that was measuring the very bottom hoop of the hoop skirt, which I think was about 130 inches. But what I did was left, my skirt ended up being 142 inches around that spot, because that seam rests pretty much right on your bottom hoop once it's level to the ground. So I ended up increasing my seam allowance on every single seam from 5/8 of an inch to 4 inches. So I added 3 3/8 inches all the way around, and that seemed to give it enough space so that I could slip it down nice and smooth over the crinoline and over the petticoat, excuse me, and basically able to put it on by myself. It slipped down nice, and it also gave the skirt a little bit of its own independence, right? The petticoat provides poofiness, so you have to take that into account, because you don't want to take this in so much that you can't get it on over top of the petticoat as well. So mine worked out to about 142 inches. You might want to take yours in a little bit more, but that worked the best for me. Now I'm going to move over to the pattern and show you how I got this effect here, because these are all different pieces. So let's go over to the pattern and I'll show you how to adjust it to include your alteration. So once you determine how much you need to take this in on all of your seams, to account for the fact that I had 1 meter too much fabric, I ended up taking it in on my pattern about 7 inches. So what I did was I found the middle of my pattern piece, and by doing that I just took the bottom hem and I brought the two pieces together in the middle, together like this, so that they were level on the bottom, and then found the middle of the pattern just like that. Now since I already have 5/8 of an inch on these edges here, I needed to put 3 3/8 inches in the middle. So all I did was measured in from my fold 3 3/8. You can see my line a bit there actually. And then I just folded this back on itself like this and taped it in place. Now you're probably wondering, how did I deal with this notch here? Well, you just smooth that out with your scissors when you cut it out, okay? You don't want to take your alteration off of the sides because that'll wreck the shape of the pattern. So you always want to take it out of the middle. Then when you cut it out, as you come along the edge, just very gently cut along here and then smooth it out back to this edge again, and it'll look just fine, okay? And you want to do this for all your pieces. That includes your upper ones. So you do this for the underskirt, and when you get to the overskirt, when I did the overskirt, I didn't take it in by 7 inches. I took it in by a lot less, and I completely forgot that I was putting on a 3-inch piece of lace. So remember when you do your overskirt, when I did my overskirt, I only took it in 3 3/8 inches. I didn't take it in the full 7 inches because I forgot that I was putting on a 3-inch wide piece of lace. So take that into consideration and take this piece in, your overskirt, the full 7 inches. That's the front piece, 7. Okay? You don't have to do that on the back overskirt, or you do actually, 7 inches, but do it on the front and the back of the overskirt, not just the back, because that's what I did. I only took it in on the back and it didn't line up properly. So remember how thick the lace is that you're going to be using for your overskirt, and factor that into this measurement here, okay? So instead of just taking this in to make one seam allowance 4 inches wide, you're going to take it in like you're adjusting for 2 seam allowances, okay? After you have adjusted all of your pieces inward like that, I have to bring this piece back, you'll notice on this piece there's lines coming across the middle. So what I did was I taped down the middle so that it wouldn't move, and I went around the whole piece marking out my 5/8 inch seam allowance along the sides and the top. And I used the piece that had the side seam in it, okay? So I'm thinking it was this one, because it doesn't go to the front. You want the one that has a side seam, and you measure up the side seam and divide it by 4, okay? And you want to do this without the band on the bottom. So you divide it by 4 to get the amount, and I figured that it was about 9 inches, okay? 9 inches even all the way up on the side seam. Then from the bottom seam allowance line, you just mark that in all the way around. 9 inches up from here, 18 inches up from there, and then 27 inches up. Once you've got those measurements in, measure along these lines. Don't factor in the seam allowances though. Just measure along these lines here. And you're going to have to write them down. One sec, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So, as I was saying, once you have figured out how the side seam divides up evenly, you're going to draw in these lines here just by measuring up however many inches that is. So from the seam allowance line though, down here. So you're going to measure up from here, 9 inches, 18, 27, all the way along. Draw it in as smooth as you can, and then using a flexible tape measure, just measure between the seam allowances, and you're going to get your measurements for your pieces. So, and you want to measure along this bottom one here too, okay? So to get, once you have those measurements, you'll be able to get these pieces. Now, you always go by the bottom of each section for, so this one, or this section measures this measurement here. This section measures this section, this line here. This section is this width here. And that's the only three you're going to do, is just 1, 2, 3, like that. Just these three here. This fourth one up here is a different trick. Okay? The measurements that I got for my front and back pieces in total were 9 inches. Well, for the back pieces, the very bottom, for the back of this section was 29 inches. The back of this was 26, and the back of this piece was 21. The front pieces were the front pieces, and you have to do this, you have to do the same procedure for, because this is the skirt back, so then you have to do the skirt front the exact same way, but the skirt front, I believe, is 2 pieces. Yeah, it is. It's 2 pieces. So after I folded the center, I did the whole measure 9, 18, and 27 inches up. On those 2 pieces, I think they're pieces 6 and 7, I got, for the front bottom ring was 13 plus 29, and then you also have to double that because you don't want a seam down the middle. So 13 plus 29. This one was 11 plus 25, and this one up here was 8 plus 21, and remember, double it because you don't want a seam line. For the front, for the very top ring, what I did was leaving this folded. I'll just turn it here so you can see. Leaving this folded, I just took a piece of tracing paper and I put it on over top of here, and I traced this shape all the way around the edges and along this line here, and I put in a seam allowance. Mine was 1/2 inch, but you might want to put in a little more. Here is that piece I was telling you about that I traced, and of course I smoothed out the edges so that there weren't any little jogs like that. And this one is a cut 2, and I believe I put a mark on here. Or no, this one, you don't have to sew the back seam along here because there's going to be a zipper. This one I got by doing the exact same thing with the front, with the 2 front pieces, 6 and 7. So I traced along here, and then I just took the 2 pieces after I traced them, and I stuck them together without the, I made sure not to factor in the seam allowances on this portion here so that I could stick them together as one piece and not have any seams. Okay? If that's about as clear as mud to you guys, you can always let me know in the comments and I will try to clear it up as best I can for you. But that right there is how you get the pattern for the underskirt and overskirt. So that's how you alter the pattern to get the skirt for Princess Peach. Make sure when you take in everything you also apply the steps to the band as well, otherwise it won't fit. Just same thing, find the middle, fold it in half, find the middle, and measure 3 3/8 inches. And yeah, everything should fit just perfect. In the next video, I show you how to cut everything out and mark and prep it for the sewing process. So until then, guys, happy sewing.